Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm at Madrid looking at Iberia's A350 in business class. Checking in is fairly simple until you realise how big the airport is. If you've never been to Madrid's main international airport before, then you're in for a treat, as the airport is on the larger side with some 989 check-in counters. The only positive about this is the number is actually split across 4 terminals. Inhaler in hand, I made my way to the dedicated business class check-in area at the other end of the terminal. Putting your bags on a conveyor belt is actually a fairly quick process, owing to the fact that there's usually a full bank of check-in agents waiting for you. Naturally, once all the paperwork is sorted, it's to the lounge, but getting there is a bit of an adventure. Firstly, you need to make your way past the Schengen duty-free area and make your way to the non-Schengen zone, i.e. the satellite terminal, by jumping on a transit train. Crack out a pamphlet as Terminal 4S is about a kilometre away from Terminal 4, so it does take about 10 to 15 minutes to get there, assuming you don't miss a train. Once you have made it to the other side, climb the escalator to the concourse, where you will be faced with, yet again, another duty-free. But fret not, for inside you will find the Sala Valaquez lounge, the flagship of Iberia's lounges. Just don't question why it's in the duty-free. But once you're in, the exploration begins. The lounge is some 2,500 square meters long with unparalleled viewing angles. It was fully refurbished back in 2018, and for reference, it's about as large as BA's flagship business lounge at Heathrow Airport. That said, there's enough here to keep oneself occupied for some time. Starting with something near and dear to my heart, there's not one, but 2 buffet counters at either end of the lounge, serving a host of hot meals and cold salads. Not to mention this unimposing soup station, which, when you look at it, it doesn't really quite compare to what's on offer with BA. In fact, the British flag carrier is supposed to be the more premium of the 2 airlines, but Iberia's lounge is definitely the superior one. Well, that's assuming you can get past the fact that there's a tiny business area, a single TV in the TV area, a games area with only one working machine, well, I liberally use the word working here, and if you need to store your bags, there's a safe space to do so. However, that's not to say it's all bad. The lounge does have some very nice shower facilities, on par with what Plaza Premium offers, and definitely not like the white walls that represent BA. There's also the experimental area, which is supposed to be a colourful cocktail bar style lounge area with some premium spirits, but unfortunately on the Bloody Mariometer it doesn't hit the same high notes that other lounges reach. But with everything going on in this lounge, if you can snag one of these seats, and there are plenty of them throughout the lounge, they offer unobstructed views of taxiing aircraft, allowing you to watch plane after plane go by. Fully relaxed, it was time to go to the gate, and wouldn't you know it, there was more walking to do. Now, going into this, I didn't know what to expect. Following on from what other YouTubers had been saying, I didn't hold my expectations that high. Most of them paint a pretty bleak picture of what the carrier offers, from how indifferent the crews behave on board, how bad and filthy the planes get, how the perception of a premium service is shattered by the lack of attention to detail, leading some to state that the carrier offers nothing more than a mediocre service at best. Doom and gloom aside, today's widebody is a 2-year-old A350 delivered to Iberia during the pandemic. As with all of Iberia's planes, there's always an association with them, and this one is no different, being named after the Spanish men's national basketball team. But tidbit aside, the carrier only has one configuration for the type, ultimately removing any guesswork when it comes to choosing a seat. The carrier's sole configuration has a total of 348 seats, with just 9% dedicated to a premium cabin and an economy seat layout set in a 3-3-3 configuration. With Iberia, business class passengers always board in Group 1, as the carrier doesn't offer a first class service, which means you have plenty of time to explore the seat. On board, business class is in a 1-2-1 configuration, and while all seats face forward, they aren't all created equal. To snag a window seat, it's important to remember that all seats alternate, so if you're in an odd numbered row, remember to choose the seats on the right hand side of the aircraft, while on even numbered rows, remember to choose the ones on the left. This is different to the A330 and A340, where both seats on the same row face the window. That said, if honeymoon seats are more your style, always remember the odd numbered rows are the ones you want. And today I'm sat in 7L. Iberia's seats are pretty bog standard, using an adapted version of the popular Stelia Solstice seat, which can also be found on Etihad, Thai Airways and Vietnam Airlines. When you compare it to the previous version on the A330s and 40s, it's simply an evolution rather than a whole redesign. With sufficient legroom, copious amounts of natural light, a table and kotuk on your left, a literature pocket, seat and IFE controls, storage and an adjustable headrest, it offers pretty much everything that you need on a long-haul flight. Diving in a bit more, the seat and IFE controls are pretty basic. I actually prefer the older style controls which I found on Iberia's A330 and A340s myself. Compare it to Cathay. These new ones lack the elegance, the ergonomic simplicity that comes with having your buttons laid out in the style of the seat. What's more, I would even question the placement of the IFE controller. It's so close to the armrest that you could inadvertently nudge on it by accident. On the other hand, power and USB are easy to access. There's plenty of useful storage space, albeit not stowed away, which is better than how other seat manufacturers have gone about it. And what's more, it even has the added benefit of providing a natural barrier for privacy. The reading light has 3 stages to it, and the literature pocket is pretty nondescript. The tray table does a good job and provides a surprising range of flexibility, allowing for easy access to get in and out of the seat, so long as there's no food on it, which in my view surpasses Lufthansa's approach at table design. The armrest isn't anything to go right home about, and the seat doesn't feel claustrophobic with enough space either side to stretch out a bit. In recline, the seat does this weird little shimmy where it moves forward a bit and then reclines a small amount, moves forward a bit more, and a small amount again before it fully reclines into a lie flat seat. I think this is so that you can sit closer to the table, because of course the table doesn't move closer to you. That aside, as you can see, there's no issue with legroom and the cubbyhole isn't too restrictive. But in this position, the screen doesn't reflect light all too well during the day, and is a little worse off when in comparison to Cathay's panel on their A350s when it comes to screen glare. That said, the tilting headrest does come in handy in this position, making for a more enjoyable IFE experience. Being such a short flight, Iberia doesn't really give you a menu. I was simply asked if I wanted a vegetarian paella or a beef tortellini, and I went with the latter. With that said, the 3 courses are well defined and presented better than I expected, although I'd chalk this up to the fact that the table was bigger more than anything else. This was followed up by one of the 2 tea and coffee services, and comparatively the offering is quite good, especially if you're a by the volume kind of person. Lufthansa on a similar distance flight gives a pretty healthy option, while BA provides a more simplified menu as compared to Iberia on the exact same route. Anyway, meal over and another tea in hand, it's time to review the IFE. The in-flight entertainment is pretty responsive, not surprising given how new the plane is. In terms of movies, there's a wide selection to choose from, and the same applies to TV shows. But what I don't understand is why so many airlines fall into the same tropes. Like, as a customer, if you're going to try a new TV show, you want to watch the pilot episode. There's no point just showing season 4 and 5, because if you already follow the program, it's very likely that you've already watched the episode before boarding. That being the case, music is pretty limited, and the game section is practically non-existent. And like all modern systems, there's a dedicated kids section. If you're bored, you can always do a bit of in-flight shopping, and if that doesn't take your fancy, you can always play around with the in-flight map. Which leads me onto the headphones. It's great that they actually give you a proper pair, but I was wondering where I'd seen these before, and of course they're the same ones used by British Airways in business and premium economy. They stand no chance up against Lufthansa's AKGs, which are active noise cancelling headphones, but for a 2-hour flight they do the job. Any longer you'd probably want to bring your own pair if you have them. Moving on, the bathroom is modern with a plethora of mirrors and lights. It keeps it the same neutral beige look and feel that is ever present in the cabin, but the wood panelling adds a nice accent if nothing else. Sadly though, there is no cubicle with a view, as Iberia didn't spring for the toilet windows. What's more, I sense the carrier takes in-flight smoking seriously, as they properly sealed down all the ashtrays. This is all in comparison to the economy lavatory, where the spotlights, vanity mirror and wood panelling are pretty much non-existent. And then there's the Wi-Fi. Iberia really, and I mean really, wants you to know that Wi-Fi is present. From when you board the plane, there's the .air symbol, to the QR code on the side of the seat, a button with instructions on the IFE welcome screen, a second button when you're on the home screen, and not to mention in the help and FAQ section, there's another mention on accessing Wi-Fi. Overall, Wi-Fi is pretty reasonably priced within Europe, having seen a massive fall in price with the new technology on board. But where you previously got 30 minutes free, this is now no longer the case unless you're flying long haul. Having gone through all of this and now reflecting back on the journey, I'd probably agree with many of the YouTubers and say that Iberia has some way to improve. There's nothing bad about it, but it is a forgettable experience, and there's no reason to fly business with Iberia except for the wide-body aircraft. Although the service was good, it wasn't without its issues or where I thought I could add constructive criticism. This time round, I found that the tray table doesn't stay shut unless latched, and it jams unless turned in the correct way. Being on a short haul flight, the carrier doesn't give you a menu, which in and of itself is understandable. The issue I had was that the crew don't give you a detailed description of the meal on offer. Like, what's it served with? What's enticing about the meal? I find it's these little touches that sets a good and a great carrier apart. Additionally, the IFE has a tendency to register incorrect presses, and the plane on the in-flight map doesn't scale all that well. And while it's possible to find 50 shades of beige on this aircraft, my seat could have used a little bit of maintenance, and the cleanliness, which has been a gripe among other YouTubers, is somewhat present on my flights as well. This leads me to my conclusion. Is business class on the Iberia A350 worth it? For me, the answer is yes for long haul, and even more so for a short haul flight. It's no more expensive, either with cash or Avios, when compared to the same route on an A320. It offers a better experience than on an A320, with features like a lie-flat seat and in-flight entertainment. Sure, it's prone to change. You could be booked on an A350 one day and then have your plane change last minute, leaving you scrambling to try and think of a new video idea as you plan to do a comparison video between business and economy crumbles into thin air. But then you ask, is the flight, independent of everything else, worth the money you pay for it? And well, that's really up to you. There are obviously some good elements to the flight, but there's also room for improvement, which I hope if Iberia is listening, they sort out for any future travellers. And that's the end of the video. If you found it informative, a like and a comment goes a long way. Feel free to check out my other videos, and I'll see you on the next one.